Hello. Hi, everyone. As always, the first question, can you hear me? You know, I'll never not be concerned about that. I see some of you already are making the inevitable. It was fantastic puns and jokes in the side, which I very much appreciate. If you can't pun here, where can you pun? So, how is everybody? I hope everybody's having a good day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. We're gonna talk about the Fantastic Four first steps. I didn't think that I was gonna make it close to even opening, but made it work, which I'm glad because the Fantastic Four, for those who aren't aware, it's my favorite team. So I was always gonna be there at some point. Making it work meant going at 10 a.m. on Friday. So it was a fairly quiet screening, which was kind of nice because I brought two of my children and it got a little emotionally intense for them at certain points. So there were tears were shed. So how many people have seen? I'm assuming most because I did put spoilers in the title. I know not everybody is here for spoilers. I also want to put it out of the way early, like I think I did in the Superman video, but I don't remember anymore. That was days ago. That's a whole other life. This isn't a review, it's just a chat about some of the things that I enjoyed or didn't enjoy, what worked for me, what I thought was interesting, what didn't, that kind of thing. But it's not, in my opinion, a review is when you go through and you get really analytical with the plot and also include things cinematography, sound mixing, all that kind of stuff. And this is just going to be off the cuff rambling, yapping. So we'll see. Also, as always, everybody's gonna vibe differently with a movie. So, if you loved it, if you didn't like it, whatever, it's all welcome. All welcome here. Let's just chat about it. Let's chat about the Fantastic Four first steps. I took notes. Well, I took notes on my phone initially, and now I have paper notes because I had to transfer some of them, and some of them came to me because unlike Superman, this is a day later. So there is more time for the thoughts to percolate. On the whole, I had a really fun time with this movie a lot. And there were lots of little things through it, just like how the Earth number was Jack Kirby's birthday, how they did the little things like, of course, recreate the first cover for the Fantastic Four with their fight. They brought up a bunch of their rogues. You got to actually see Mole Man. Red Ghost and his super apes got cut. You got a tiny little snippet in the credits, but unfortunately, John Malkovich didn't make it. Ben Chan was teasing me in the community tab that I have that thumbnail with him in it. It's like now it makes no sense, and it's like yes, time recording. That's what always ends up happening. But so there was lots of enjoyable nods to the past the Fantastic Four. The animated like history got a decent amount of nods as well, including one recurring joke that is a joke that came up in the comics about there being a TV show and about it bothering specifically the Thing because of the characterization they give him on the show. Like that's a full-on comic joke. So it's like, oh, they just brought some of that in. There were lots of things that they translated directly and then other things that they kind of warped or mushed together because the plot is very much cobbling together three big storylines and then trying to like go through all of them, even though it ends up being it's a very basic plot. So what it's relying on is you enjoying the team and their energy and their dynamic and being invested in them and the stakes that come from that and the threat coming to their world and how it's going to impact them because they're very much the focal point. So it's one of those things where if you're not gelling with them or don't feel really emotionally connected to them, I can see this falling fairly flat. But if you do end up connecting with them, I can see it really, really working. Again, it's going to entirely vary. And not everybody gets the same amount of screen time or depth in terms of what they're doing. So I can see that also potentially resonating differently with people depending upon who your favorite member of the team is or isn't, So what did I write down? Do. Yep. Oh, I'm actually hitting it without looking at it. I don't know how I feel about that. So let's just go through some of the things that I liked first, because I like to start with things that I enjoyed, which is I enjoyed how Kirby-esque it felt in terms of how much time they spent actually out in space, how much science was involved. It really felt like one of their classic early adventures, especially with how high stakes things got, because that happens to the Fantastic Four a lot. You got to see Tatsu, which was a very different shape than it is when you first see it in issue 49, I think is when you first see Galactus's ship. They went much more with a Star Trek kind of doomsday planet eater thing than the kind of geometric work that's going on there. But it was really cool to go inside of it, and the scale of things, they made it feel very big, even though it was really dark. They went for the whole, like, obviously, this is an evil person's ship. We need to be concerned. I've always imagined and seen also the interior of the ship as more of like a Rama exploration, but it was still really cool and it conveyed what it needed to. Everything in this film conveyed what it needed to convey. And I enjoy that a lot. You could understand the choices that they made for most things, or at least I could. I'll go through some of them, some things that I really thought worked. And one of them was Reed. And so let's talk about Reed, because if you've been on this channel for a while, Reed is something that we joke about a lot just because of the way he's depicted sometimes, and the way sometimes in the comics he's doing these out-of-pocket things and the comic will just ignore it, which can be really amusing and make him come across like a supervillain sometimes. But this movie, the depiction that it went with was it was trying to blend a bunch of the characterizations of Reed, because you have this long history of everything. So Reed, classically, he's this like archetypal kind of science hero, but also he's incredibly cold in the way that he approaches certain things. The point that in some stories it's outright cruel and hard to get behind. And over time that's definitely been tampered down to the point where in some modern depictions they just ignore it entirely, which is something that I don't agree with when the comics do that. This kind of tried to meet in the middle and create the version of Reed where he does have that kind of different way of thinking. He just views the world in a different way, and largely it is because of his intelligence. But this played it that he was aware of that, and that also the family being around him had helped temper that partially, but more that he's masking it a lot of the time. And I thought that was a really interesting way to take it, and it made it more relatable, and I think made him more likable. Whereas if you go full comic book classic Reed, I'm not sure how likable he would be. Whereas with this, it came across as something that one could more identify with. And I really enjoyed the scenes where he was explaining the way that his mind worked and the way he was always thinking about these big problems. Why am I choking? Reed's trying to kill me. It's the maker. He's trying to come through. He's like, no, don't even try and understand me. And because in the comics, a lot of the times Reed is the person who will make that choice of, you know, for the greater good. And you saw that those were choices that he was contemplating, or in some cases may have potentially made in this film if the circumstances were different. And I really appreciate that that element was there, because that's a huge component of Reed too. Like you'll often see alternate universes where it's just, oh, evil Reeds, Council of Evil Reeds, all those kind of things. And they really had some core emotional moments with that. Like the little things, like when he's building the thing to scan the baby and he's like, well, anybody can build a crib, only I can build this. It was a tempered down version of that arrogance. And so that was a really interesting way to kind of play it. And also the scene where he's talking to Franklin later on, and he's saying, I don't want you to be like me. There's something wrong with me. And that was just really interesting. And I just thought for the version of Reed that they went with, I thought it really worked for this film. And I thought that Pedro Pascal did a really good job of depicting that Reed. Now, if you were looking for more of like your classic Reed, I can see not really gelling with it, because he doesn't always come across as the most kind of confident and out there, which is what some may be expecting. Whereas Sue comes across more as the front person of the team, because they're playing it like she has the most maturity and emotional intelligence. So she does a lot of the speaking. But in this film, she does, because one of the decisions that I thought was ridiculous is where they tell the Earth that Galactus wants their son. I'm like, no, you keep that on the down low. You keep it secret. Keep it safe. No one actually needs to know that. Keep it secret. You don't need to tell the people everything. But at the same time, the fact that they did tell them, it lent itself well to the kind of optimistic atmosphere that this Earth had, where it was like, this is a world with heroes and it's just made the world better. And this is kind of the first encounter they're having where they're having to question how that's working and whether it can actually work or not. Nick's Fuel, thank you very much, is saying, I loved seeing Reed's autism coded and seeing him struggle with it. It felt good as someone on the spectrum. See, I feel like the depiction that they went with is something that's going to be more accessible to people than the way that they normally kind of play it. Because there are some versions where that is the coding they're going for. Because again, you have a lot to pick from because they have such a long history. As for the others, I think Sue fared the next best in terms of all that she got to do. I really appreciated that they let her be a mom. They don't normally let her get there in these films. And so that was nice to see. And it was nice to see that they treated it in such a way where it's your life doesn't end. It's not over, Marvel Comics. It's, it's you can still do things and it's fine. It's not fine, but things change, but you just keep going and rolling with it. I did like that they also show that she was thinking about some of the concerns though. Like when she's having the conversation with Reed in bed about, just because I'm not saying it doesn't mean I'm not thinking about it, like how she's about to be super pregnant and go into space. The relationship between them felt really authentic and realistic, and it really sold the idea of her being a woman who's made the decision to stay with a man who she knows has these kind of flaws, which is a huge part of the Sue Reed dynamic, and why you also see so many fanfics and poking at in the canon of like she should be with Namor, she should be with Doom or so many other people. She's leaving him for like X reason. So I thought the fight they had also was incredibly, I felt, realistic, where she comes at him saying that sometimes the person you are hurts me. And the only response he has is, I don't mean to. And there's a scene that's so like that in the comics. I think it's the Robinson run, where after their children are taken from them and he's trying to console her with something like really emotionally profound. And she's like, did you read that in a magazine? And he goes, don't be cruel. And so I just felt this film really captured a lot of the emotional dynamics, because like team drama is such a huge part of the Fantastic Four, but also science, like science adventures. I felt that this really, really did that for them, at least for the two of them. Stephen Turner, thank you very much. No new nose bleeding from Sue. We won. We did avoid that one trope. We went really cliche with some things at the ending, which again is not going to work for everybody. For me, it really worked, and it hit me in the feels when they went for the whole, sacrificing yourself for your kid, mom's strength. There's another really good scene for Reed and Sue there, which is in that final confrontation with Galactus before Sue does the whole sacrifice thing. Reed sees her get hurt and knock down the car, and he keeps going towards Galactus versus how she is willing to do anything for Franklin. I'm just like, there you go. Just that dynamic and the way they think, just so nicely put out and laid out like that. Franklin is, of course, Deus Ex baby, but Franklin is indeed actually that powerful and ridiculous. So for me, that didn't bother me. And the baby was cute. The baby was my kid's favorite character. They were super invested in the baby. Again, it was a good thing it wasn't too busy, because every time the baby was on screen, they went, "Oh, it's a baby." So that was very sweet. It was nice to see them so invested. It was one of those things where, of course, as an adult, they're not going to kill her off in this movie. This is the family film, but for them, like, again, crying, tears, the investment, it really worked. And so like when like I'm there, I'm like, yeah, of course she's gonna be fine. I'm like, they don't know that. So I felt that for that emotional like pull, I felt like that worked, especially for a younger person or someone who hasn't, been involved with those tropes as much, or just someone who's just really invested. Sometimes it hits you. Chemdog is saying CGI Franklin was still creepy looking. Oh, 100%. When they have the delivery in space, they're like, CGI that baby and bring it up. I'm like, firstly, that's not even close to what a newborn baby looks like. And secondly, it's creepy CGI. Most of the CG for me, I thought looked pretty cool though. I really liked how the effects were rendered for the most part. Of course, it's gonna be 10 years later and we're looking back, like, ugh, look at this. When did we ever think that that this looked good? Yuri Volt is saying cleanest newborn ever. Shh, the people don't need to know about the layers and the things that are on the baby. They don't need to know about all the stuff that would be floating around in in the spaceship. We don't need that level of realism in our movie. That'd be too much. Johnny, the route they went with Johnny was like slightly more mature, but clearly having the past of, womanizer, attention getting Johnny, because you saw all the billboards and all of those kind of things. For him, the Shala and him kind of like not flirtate, like slight flirtation, like jokey thing didn't entirely land for me. Because while I liked the actress who played Silver Surfer a lot, and I thought her scenes were cool, there was never a moment where the film sold me that adding her instead of Norrin was an improvement or was significantly altering anything except in the scenes with her and Johnny. And for me, that wasn't the most compelling of the interactions. So I'm like, it was fine, but personally I could have taken it or left it. But at least he had something to do. He got to have a plot point of deciphering the language, getting to have a pivotal moment that's going to help them towards the end of the film. The one who got the least to do was definitely the Thing. I liked the depiction of the Thing. I thought it was really heartwarming. You got to see him go around Yancey Street. He was clearly at a point where we weren't in one of those angsty, I'm a monster Ben Grimm moments, which we have seen a lot. So mileage varies on whether or not you want to see it again, but some might have wanted him to do a bit more than he did. I saw someone comment on my post where I said that I was going to talk about this, that they said that his arc was growing a beard. And I was like, that's harsh. It's harsh. But on the whole, I thought that it was a really nice rendition of the team. It made me just want to see them, though. It made me wish that we didn't need to do any multiverse. And already, like, the Thunderbolts at the end was going to be like, they're coming with multiversing. I kind of just wanted like more of them. Just I would have watched it. I would watch an entire TV show, just them having adventures in their universe without needing to come to the rest of it, because there were cuts. It was clear that there were cuts. There was more to the. I want the director's cut and whatever else was cut from this, because I think some of the fun things might have been cut. I didn't go and look up what was cut yet. This is not that kind of, again, in-depth review where I went and read interviews or those kind of things. But I would have seen more of this. I really vibe with this. I can see it falling flat for people, or some people feeling that's really basic or boring, but for me, because I connected with it on a really emotional level, and I thought it was a really good depiction of the essence of the team, even if they weren't exactly, comic accurate in all cases. Which I don't think things need to be necessarily adaptation wise, as long as you catch the vibe and the tone. And it's clear that's not trying to, assassinate or anything. I couldn't think of a word. Assassinate sounds so intense, but like that's really extra. But I think you may catch the drift of what I am trying to say. Yeah. Okay. So let me see what all of you are saying. Ethan Long is saying Shackman said he didn't want to put the CGI artist through finishing a lot of the cut content, which, if you've heard some of the behind the scenes of the crunch that goes on for some of the CGI artists, totally fair. Totally fair. I completely get that. Maybe someday in the future, if it does well enough, we can get that cut. That would be great. That's the kind of thing that I would love to see in the future at some point. Now, as for the cobbling, so it's like we had Enter Galactus, we had the Silver Surfer, and we had the birth of Franklin, which they did the whole dramatic and having her there, which does make it have a bit more weight, because in the comics it's like a high risk pregnancy, and so she can't go on the mission, which is more realistic, but at the same time you need her there, otherwise she's cut out from a lot of the action film wise, because you're not just going to cut back and forth like that. So it makes sense why they brought her. And then also you need her there so Galactus be like, wow, this super powerful cosmic baby. That was another scene that I really liked, where Reed is talking to Galactus and saying like, no, the baby's normal. I scanned him. And again, that's part of like when people were talking earlier in the chat about the autism coding and just in general from a parenting perspective, like for some, there is a concern like, what if something is wrong? And what if they're not right or something like that? But then they follow it up with a very comic booky line from Galactus, which is like he's masking it, he's hiding it from you. And that just made me all the plots where Franklin's had to do that because you remember like Reed shot him with that like power suppressing gun that one time. So I was like, yeah, that tracks. That entirely tracks. This baby already knows. Although it also made me laugh because who watched the 4400? There was a whole plot on the 4400 with a psychic baby, like an extremely powerful psychic baby. And I was thinking about that for some of this, and it did make me laugh. My husband and I sometimes just will go, psychic baby, when something like that happens. So when this was going on, I was just, psychic baby. Darth Nick, thank you very much. It is very appreciated. If you were trying to say something that didn't come through, so feel free to put it and I will endeavor to find it. Yep. See, Jay Stormer saying now Franklin is masking his powers in the comics. You see, this is just a Franklin thing. Franklin is so immensely powerful. And of course, the Galactus and Franklin connection. I was thinking about Galactus and Franklin at the end of time, just the two of them together. So there were a lot of little comic book lore things, but it's really interesting because the way they came together in the plot was something that was very recognizable. And so for some, I'm not sure whether that's going to land or not. So I want to hear for you, like where are you at with it? Like I obviously really enjoyed it. I would go again. I could have gone again right after, honestly. But I didn't get to see the second end credits scene. I had to like do that after because my kids had to go to the bathroom. So we only got to see the Doom scene. And seeing Doom and Franklin just made me want to see Valeria. I was like, oh, we need Valeria now. If we're gonna do Franklin, let's have Valeria. And I want Valeria to be the one to have that connection that she has with Doom because they have such a fascinating relationship, Valeria and Doom. So let's see. And it was really interesting because lots of things I kept seeing what some people wanted to, like some people wanted to see the ultimate nullifier and those kind of things. I don't like, how does everybody feel about the ultimate nullifier? Like it's a really cool scene for Reed, and it's a cool scene to see Galactus cowed by something, but it is in my opinion equally Deus Ex Machina as like cosmic baby or mom strength or those kind of things, which is what we ended up with. I liked the solution that this tried to give to Reed because it let him have that moment of showcasing his intelligence. It's just Reed doesn't have a kind of really tough guy moment, which some may have been waiting for. But for me, I felt they really focused more on the intellectual aspect of Reed. They tried to break them down into like, he does this, he does that, she does this, that kind of a thing. Let's see what some of you are saying. Sailing Siren is saying it's great for full comic book, but it's not a good idea before Doomsday. I don't need more MCU things. I liked this standalone vibe that this had. Please just stay like that. Let's see. IB weighs in is saying, as someone who has dipped in and out of Fantastic Four for a very long time, I really like this amalgam of stories and eras, but I feel that way about most of the choices they've made in the MCU. They have a lot to go through with the Fantastic Four. It has such a long history, and they've tried to keep things fairly consistent. So I can see why they went for the storyline they went with if they weren't going to do Doom. They wanted to do something that felt big and iconic, but also feels you can kind of use some of the scope because they mention a lot of the early people. Like you get to see, Mole Man. You actually get to see Mole Man, which is really, I enjoyed the Mole Man and Subterranean and all that stuff. But I would love to see the Puppet Master, but I don't feel like the Puppet Master is like your first film material. I would love to see super creepy Puppet Master though, like the way they draw him in the comics where it's just so extra. I saw some people were sad that we didn't get Alicia, we got Rachel, and some people wanted to see Alicia that kind of thing. But I don't mind when they make those kind of like switches, especially because they were so explicit right off the bat about we are in an alternate universe, type thing. So let me refer here. Some of these notes just have hearts next to them. Like I think I have a note here. It's just like read heart, and then it's a bunch of scenes that like elaborate upon the heart. That's my coding system. They're like emojis and signs and those kind of things. Impenetrable writing for anybody who tried to read this. Oh, yeah, the clobbering time joke worked for me because it reminded me of the issue which came up when I was talking about Malice, where the Thing is super mad at their TV show. And just the idea that people would be heckling them with it and the things from and their merch and all that stuff is very Fantastic Four, because when they emerge in their first stories, they are essentially celebrities, the way that people treat them, and they're sending them fan mail. One of the issues is like Reed almost having like a fourth wall breaking moment where he's berating people for writing in things about Sue not doing enough and that kind of stuff, where he's like, Sue does great things, but then also they have some period typical like she's the what do they say? I need to find that issue because I've referenced it before. I'm like, we should do it at some point, but not before all the Namor things. Needs more Namor. Needs more Namor shooting his shot with Sue, even though in this universe he clearly has no chance because she has fully reconciled clearly what like the type of man that she's with and the type of relationship that they have, and they have achieved power couple dynamic status together. Stephen Turner is saying, I do wish we got a bit more power usage and action fight scenes with them, but I'm looking forward to seeing more in Avengers. Yeah, you got to see some people a bit more than others. I think you got to see Sue and Johnny the most, and the Thing is always the Thing, but he didn't get to do too much actual clobbering, except at the end where he just ran through the pillars of that building. And Reed didn't get to stretch too much, and I feel like that was strategic because that's the one that I think can get the silliest or the most uncanny valley or unrealistic looking the quickest. I did like the scenes where they had him use it casually, where he just like reach across the room for something or that kind of thing. I always enjoy that kind of aspect when a person has powers that it's just so clearly been implemented into their lives because it's something that they use all the time. Barrett is saying waiting for Malice. You could see a Malice happening in this universe. This Sue could get angry. I like that it showed how scary she could be if angry. That was another really good scene for me, where Reed is pretending that he hasn't made the decision to use their baby as bait, and she full on knows because she knows him that he has. He 100% has. Yeah, Ethan Long, kill her, Johnny. Like, no, Susan's not playing around. Susan can be scary. It did make me think at the end of the Malice arc where she's torturing the guy. So I'm like, yeah, no, again, like Sue getting that dark, that tracks. I felt like this Sue had a decent amount of range, and you got to see a lot of it and how tough, being on the team and the changes that occurred to her there have made her. And I don't know, I liked that. Chemdog is saying, I'm so looking forward to seeing the eventual Thing versus Hulk battle. Let them fight. Nick's Fuel is saying, Sue is the most powerful by far. Loved seeing her portrayed properly. The scale of Sue's power has increased over time, but like that level of it, while pushed to the extreme, was accurate in terms of like that she has this much reserve within her. But again, like it cost. That's the thing. It didn't come for nothing. It cost. And again, at the end, her baby, his cosmic powers, I thought it was super sweet. My husband, stone face, just went lame. So again, people are gonna have very different reactions. Tame the Three Bears is saying, can we appreciate Sue's eyelashes? Stun. Everybody looked great in this movie. Props to all the makeup department. People looked good. That's the one thing about Pedro is that he still does not look to me like your archetype for Reed, but again, the performance for the universe that they made really carried it as like, this is Reed for this universe for me. Because that was something I wasn't sure of when he was first cast, because I know that he's never shaving that like facial hair again after Wonder Woman 1984. Cause and when he played Maxwell Lord, never forget. So Hector Manuel saying justice for Franklin. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Nick feels like he has Reed energy. That's the thing. It's like sometimes you catch the vibe. And so for me, as I said already, like this caught the vibe of the team for me. I think I would say that it's my favorite of the Fantastic Four films, even though like there are certain elements of, especially the the 2004 ones and stuff that I find really fun. But just overall, this one I think I enjoyed the most because I just kept thinking for me personally, because like having read through all of the various eras down to the point of like arguing with that one editor's note from Dan Slott in that run where he tries to say that Namor and Sue was never a thing and it's a completely one-sided made-up fan fiction. I'm like, that's a lie. I just kept thinking that they got it. I was like, oh, they get it. Like they get the family, like, and the drama and the adventure and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it really worked. But again, it's not gonna for everybody, and that's totally fine. So if it didn't work, please, I'd love to hear like what did not vibe for you, because I would love to hear it. That's what I love about these discussions is you get to see and hear so many different perspectives on things. I see also that it's reigniting that kind of like Marvel DC kind of like, oh, like this is better. I think it's kind of healthy to have that rivalry when when it stays at that kind of like fun, kind of like jockeying kind of level. Like that can be a thing that pushes the two of them against each other in a good way. It's just when it can go too far. Like with anything, some things can go too far. Let's see. Virgil Hawkins is saying Reed's plan didn't work for me at all. Was it that you didn't buy that the world would cooperate like that? Or were you just not like feeling that they're just going to teleport him to the edge of space without his shit? It'll be fine. It will be fine. Jay Storm is saying the only thing I didn't like is Alicia not being the romantic interest, especially since they mentioned Puppet Master. Yes, they did mention. And I was like, oh, yay, Puppet Master mentioned. Mark WG is saying too many montages and time skips, bad CGI. Let's see. Oh, Lobo's just asking Superman or Fantastic Four. See, that's the battle that some want to have, and I'm gonna say both. I'm that person. Both. The End King is saying that teleporter plan could have easily turned into a horror film. You see, that kind of works for me. It's skirting. I'm like, are we secret prison Reed? Like, we're nearly there. That was again a very Reed thing. Like, I just casually invented this thing that could be catastrophic. Like, this is the portal to the negative zone. Let's go. Oh, let's see. Candles Jr. is saying, I wish Mole Man was more accurate. He looked too normal. I wanted a shorter hunchback mole. You wanted comic accurate Mole Man. You wanted him to look like he was from under. They managed to avoid making that feel like an underdweller like vibe because again, Incredibles is so inspired by the Fantastic Four to the point where some people think it's reversed. So Francisco saying it reminds me of Tremors with so many plans to survive. I haven't seen Tremors in a while. Stephen Turner is asking Fantastic Four or Incredibles. I'm going to say both. I love the Incredibles though. But the Incredibles is working through some very different midlife crisis theming kind of things. On top of the whole incredibly memed, if everyone's super, then no syndrome stuff. Will Forrest saying Danny DeVito Mole Man. Like remake the whole movie. Danny DeVito. Oh, Lobo is asking an interesting question for everybody. Lobo is asking, are you more confident in RDJ Doom now that this movie is out? For me, I would have preferred if somebody else was cast personally. That's just me. And that's not a shot at RDJ at all or any of the multiverse stuff they're doing. I just would have preferred, someone I hadn't seen before. That's just me. A whole bunch of you just going, no. Just a whole slew of no's down the side. Oh no. Oh no, Steven Turner is going, absolutely not. This movie highlights what a bad idea it is. I want to see, because for Doom, you need a similar thing to what you need for like Lex and Superman or Batman Joker. You really need there to be chemistry with Reed, because that vendetta is so personal and also incredibly one-sided at the start that you really need something that can convey that. I need just the pettiest Doom. I need the pettiest Doom out there. We need as much rage baiting from Doom as we got from Lex. We need 1A level rage bait. The memes have been excellent for Superman, by the way. They're all on my feed. I keep getting them popping up all the time. I'm very pleased that we managed to get this far without comparing the two, because that's so tempting because they came out so close together. And so of course that's the natural inclination kind of thing. Oh my gosh, Tim Three Birds saying Jared Leto for Doom. We already are getting Jared Leto with Tron Ares, which is a trailer that they played before the movie. And my daughter made me laugh by asking, is Tron Ares Marvel or DC? And I had to be like, neither. She just assumed that every trailer would be for a comic book movie before the movie. I'm like, I like your logic, but no, that is not. Jay Storm is saying super fantastic. Ruru 2 is saying, let's just have a CGI Doom. We can have some CGI Doom bots, although I'd rather not have CGI Doom if we could avoid it. Did I get through all the notes? I mean, I have a whole like other page, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I did it. This is... Wait, are you saying for Doom? Saval is saying, hear me out, Chris Evans. I love when somebody starts something with hear me out. Who would be your fan cast for Doom if you had one? Julia's saying CGI baby was funny. It was better when they had an actual baby for like a few. It's always better when you can get an actual baby. But the other funny thing about babies in movies is if you've had a baby or been around them, in any way, you can always tell that firstly that they're changing them, that they're swapping them out, and like the babies look entirely different if you're aware of, the baby face. And then also that the sizing is always wrong. They're like, this baby is 3 months old, and like they're holding a clearly 8-month-old baby and stuff like that. That's always really funny. Although I think the funniest was it the American Sniper, where it was a doll that they had as the baby? I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Common Sense is saying, how about fan casting for The Maker? I really liked the fan cast where people were trying to pitch Miles Teller as The Maker. I thought that was fun. I'm not sure if any of the people who were involved in that production would want to do anything Fantastic Four related after what an absolute mess and how unpleasant of a production that was. But I really liked the idea of that because I did like Miles Teller's performance as Reed as well. It's just that movie, there's so much about it. Let's see. Francisco is saying the CGI was way better than that animatronic. Golden Age is saying, seemed like there was a bunch of cut content for this film. There were things cut. Not only, for making, because we're out of the era, which I'm kind of glad of like everything needs to be like 2.5 hours. But also, like someone said earlier in the chat, like some of the stuff couldn't be finished or just the timing for everything. So again, I would love to see more of it. Nick's Fuel, thank you very much, is saying, what was so cool about Sue letting you see Franklin incubating is it kind of hints at Franklin's power to create dimensions. That was a really cool scene. And again, it was another usage of just the casual way they've implemented their powers into their lives, which was really cool. I enjoyed that the plot had so much, family theming, and that was such a core element of it. Although one of the things that didn't really work for me, even though they work emotionally and thematically, is where, like, when Sue goes out to make the speech, like, this is Franklin. She doesn't hold him up Lion King style, but in my mind, she's holding him up Lion King style. And it wins over the crowd with her powerful speech. I'm like, no, that one woman who yells out, "You're selfish." I'm like, that there would have been so much more of that. I'm like, this scene in my head is playing out with like her getting stoned and them grabbing the baby and like building an altar to try and give it up to Galactus. I'm like, I'm too dark for the happy universe that they've made over here. They just should not have told them and have had to be like, they should not have told them, and then people find out anyway. And then they can come and protest at the Baxter building. Andrew Brown, thank you very much. RDJ and Oppenheimer played Doom. They're like, it already happened. We don't. Oh. Justin is saying, I almost threw my popcorn at the speech that changed the world's mind. She gets up there. Family. They're like, oh, I love Fast and Furious. We'll let the baby live. So it's, again, even though like this was a movie I really enjoyed, there are still some things I'm like, this, we're going to suspend our disbelief for the optimism. But, oh. David is saying, David Berlanga is saying, Thing had no jokes. You needed more jokey Thing. You wanted more jokey Thing, like in the cartoons, because he used to joke a lot in the cartoons. We need to do more reviews of the 90s cartoon, especially season 2. Not so much season 1, but especially season 2. I'm talking about the 90s one. I said that because there are others. Wooden Gun, never forget Reed defeating Magneto with a wooden gun. So. Rainbow Warrior saying we are too cynical these days. I'd like to believe, but I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not gonna front. Yeah, I'm cynical. I am. Tame the Three Bears is saying, I do feel like the humor in this movie was timed perfectly, did not overshadow the emotions. I felt the balance was good too. I laughed at the end joke where they're all trying to put the car seat in the car because it just felt like a nice bit of levity after how heavy everything had been. I did feel they didn't overshadow. The only ones that I ever felt kind of jarred about were, as I mentioned earlier, the Johnny and Silver Surfer ones. But they really redeemed the surfboard one for me at the end when they're about to go on the show. And he's like, see, the most important part is that the surfboard is not attached to the body. Like, they brought it back. Common Sense is saying Fan Four Stick, which I will not call it, is an adaptation of Ultimate Fantastic Four. Regardless, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Which is, again, why it would work for Miles to then come and be the Maker. What would we have the Maker do? We've had the Maker in comics do the entire Ultimate universe, which there were some SDC. I'm pointing over there like you can see the other screen. There were some SDCC announcements about, because that's another thing that's going on. I don't think we'll hit it in this stream. I'll probably come on and stream again about some of the news that's been coming out of Comic-Con over the weekend, because otherwise, it'd be too much. We may be overwhelmed. But yeah, there's a lot going on. Let's see. Jeremy Nixon is saying, I buy the speech working. That universe is insanely retro sweet. I'd live there. No, again, I think it works for the universe because, like I said earlier in the stream, this universe is presented as this really optimistic kind of wondrous place. And that again matches the era that the Fantastic Four is birthed into, which while overall deemed the Silver Age, for them, it's the Marvel Renaissance. But a lot of that wonder and that exploration and the science, that's part of it. That's part of the era that it comes from. So it really felt like, especially because they had the universe have Jack Kirby's birthday as its numbering, like it really felt like that's what it was trying to homage. So I appreciated it. And that's why, even in my mind, I can be like, yeah, they'd kill that baby. I can appreciate what's going on in the universe for what it is. I'm just like, oh, burn the witch. Stephen Turner, thank you very much, is saying, after Thor Love and Thunder, I had enough jokey MCU. But when Thor Love and Thunder is a whole other animal, like when even the crew and people are coming out after going like, there were a lot of jokes in this movie. That was a lot. I think that may be the pinnacle up there of just so many jokes. Let's see. Lobo saying, really would like Johnny finding beard homeless Namor in the next movie. People just want Namor. Oh, I'm sure you all saw that they released rival skins for this. I thought they looked nice. Oh, if you didn't hop over to Amanda's like stream and stuff, like her and Duck got to cosplay for the premiere and they look fantastic. I wasn't even attempted a pun. They really do look fantastic. So you should go check that out. Oh. Wow, Tame the Three Bears has taken it way back. After Guardians, I was done with gun humor. It's really fascinating the shift that has gone on with how people view humor in the MCU, because I remember the Avengers and how that was one of the things that was praised about. They're like, oh, I love all of these jokes. I remember at the time, I love the Avengers, but I remember even at the time, I was one of those people who didn't like the, oh, he's adopted joke. I still remember it off the top of my head from Thor about Loki. And I was just like, oh, like that's not in character. That's atonal. Like it's breaking everything. People are like, oh, why are you nitpicking? Why are you being like that? I'm like, I don't know. This seems like important. And then like years later, it was like, there are too many jokes everywhere. I was like, I told you, he's adopted. It was right there. It was the Harbinger. It was the Harbinger joke. Oh, the End King is saying super fantastic, terrific. Oh, that's sweet. Chem Dog is saying there was applause from my movie theater at the end of the movie. There were not enough people in my theater to get applause. I think there were about 8 of us, but again, it was really early. Nick's Fuel is saying, I loved Sue, but she did a lot of MCU power hands posing. Because it's the type of powers that she has. Because when you have any kind of force field or something, it's the same with telepaths. That's why when they have Professor X use his powers, like he reaches up and does it, because it's like otherwise you have nothing. You have nothing to show. And then film is a visual medium. You got to show something. So they got to do some kind of motion. I don't know. If you had powers, like, do you think if you didn't have to, that you would make some kind of hand motion? Or do you think you'd just stand there and let it happen? I mean, if you were a villain, it would probably be more optimal to just stand there and let it happen. Tame the Three Bears say she did the Wanda back bend. Oh. Common Sense is saying you have fire hands, lightning hands. I'm just thinking about the shrimp speech from Forrest Gump. Earth hands, air hands, jazz hands. Oh, Francisco is saying neck snapping with telekinesis, like a true DC fan. No, at DC, especially if you're a hero, you got to get right up close and personal and snap the neck. Wonder Woman gets up and personal, snaps the neck. I said the video, Captain Triumph snaps the neck. Hal snaps the neck. You got to get up there and get real personal, because it is personal. So you gotta be close enough to hear the crack. Otherwise, have you truly joined the DC Neck Snap Club? I don't think you have. The End King is saying Galactus stretching Reed to death was horrific. Yeah, that worked for me. I felt the pain of that scene. I really liked how Galactus looked. I was really happy to see actual big guy Galactus and not Cloud Galactus, which we've previously had. I know some people find it cheesy that Galactus is just a big guy. I do low-key wish he'd been a bit more colorful, especially because so much of this universe was so colorful. I'm like, I know that he's, got the purple and all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't have minded seeing a bit more color on him personally. But I have to say, like my 5-year-old found him. She found him scary. She was like, "Whoa, Galactus is scary." She actually turned around at one point when they were up in the ship, and his eyes turned on for the first time. So I was like, yeah, again, I think they really got it for for especially for a newer, younger audience. I can see them really, really vibing with this. It's a good summer for superhero films, in my opinion. It's been a while since I've had this much fun with superhero films, to be perfectly honest. Ruchu is asking, where's Galacta? People aren't ready for Galacta yet. Stephen Turner is saying the scene going through the space cloud stuff where the Silver Surfer reached into Sue was so good. When she reached into her stomach, like she was going to phase the baby out of it, I got so stressed out. It made me think of all those cases where people do that, where they go to like the woman and they cut the baby out and steal it. Like I was just like, oh, it's so stressful. So stressful. Ahmad Russell is saying Galactus looked like Mobius art. I need to pull this up. Hold on. HB Haga is saying Galactus should have been there in his shorts. This is a summer movie after all. Give him time. He's going to travel through a dimensional portal, maybe with some thinking, we can get some shorts or like the skirt kilt thing. Nick's Fuel is saying Surfer looked too much like Foxman Mystique. Virgil saying MCU is too cheesecake averse for Galacta. You could just have Galacta, but she just wouldn't be as, kapow as you. That's not, but I don't have words, apparently. In 616, we will have Norrin Rad and Galacta, says Mega John Eagle. Because again, this is alternate. We're going to see more things. So here's a question for all of you. Does this make you vibe a bit more with the MCU? Like, are you now more excited for some of the other things that they have coming? Or did you just enjoy, if you did enjoy this, did you just enjoy this like on its own? Or are you now kind of like, yeah, I'm getting more into the Marvel, getting into Marvels, in the Marvel mood. If you weren't, did you ever get out of it? That's a question, because there's lots of talk online about superhero fatigue and people being done and all that kind of stuff. So were you? That's, I want to know. I'm seeing heck yeah. I'm seeing no. I'm still scared of RDJ Doom. I can't see it. Cautiously optimistic. Mitch is saying I never stop being hype. No. So we have a variety. Variety is the spice of life, and he who controls the spice controls the universe. So we're getting there. We'll be able to make our own reality soon enough. And they say perception is real. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop now. Chemdog is saying it's impossible for me to get superhero fatigue. Ooh, I like how you phrased this. Castavel is saying big shrug energy. I just like that. It really conveys the vibe. I can imagine the big shrug in my mind as you say that. Let's see. So I guess I will ask, since we're coming to the end, all kinds of references to things, Beckett references. We're getting deep now. Well, I mean, we saw the kind of things that Franklin was reading in the end credits. I feel like he'd be reading some Beckett, maybe some Waiting for Godot and all those kind of things. Which did you, if you saw both, which did you enjoy? Did you like them both, like Superman and Fantastic Four? Did you like them both for different reasons? Was one more above than the other for you? If so, why? I'm asking questions like it's the end of one of my videos where I always ask all of you way too many questions. Let me pull this up. Stephen Turner, thank you very much. They are not finished script for Doom. I'm scared. Oh, I want to make a whole like RDJ Doom isn't real. He can't hurt you, but he is. So J Storm, what do you think about the Power CGI? I personally liked it. I mean, I thought like sometimes it was obvious and you could tell that it was anime, but I thought it was well presented. I thought it was really well put together personally. I didn't think anything looked like extra goofy outside of the baby. Like, listen, we couldn't get a real baby on the set. Let's see. Mark is like Superman because of crypto. Summer of crypto. Connor is saying Superman felt more movie. Fantastic Four felt episodic. Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. And I did say earlier that I wanted to see it like a TV show. So that's a really interesting way to put it. Nick's Fuel is saying, I just thought of this, but Franklin reading Darwin is because he's a mutant. So you're connecting all the dots, all the hints, the clues. See, David is saying Superman had better humor and director. It's like, it's funny because for me, the humor is one of the things that pulled Superman down a little bit for me. Like I enjoyed both of them so much. And I would go again to either in a heartbeat. But to me, the Fantastic Four overall was more balanced as a film, whereas the just overall vibe, optimism, and joy in Superman, I felt was a bit more present in that film, even though both clearly love their source material. It was very interesting. I've been hearing comments where some people are describing this almost as like this is the silver age of comic book films, which really if you put it for these two films, I actually felt it was very apt to what the silver age in comics was very much like for DC and for Marvel, because DC has these very big kind of like over the top stories that by some years later are deemed as silly, but they have a lot of heart. And I'm like, that very much encapsulates this version of Superman, which was pulling so much from the Silver Age. Whereas for Marvel, it's their Renaissance where they start trying to play a bit more serious and aim at being a tiny bit more mature in their storytelling and that kind of thing. And again, like that felt like this for the Fantastic Four. So I'm like, maybe it is the Silver Age of comic book films. That's very fascinating. I was like, well, now I'm thinking about it on like that kind of level, because I'm like, I really enjoyed them both for what they were and what they were endeavoring to do. And they both have a special place for me because they just clearly loved their sources. And I love that. Did you see that James Gunn posted the mural for the Hall of Justice? I know people are trying to like decipher all the heroes in it. I'm like, somebody asked me. So I'm like, I might do a short identifying all the people in the mural, because I did recognize all of them. I'm like, oh, that could be fun, you know? Also, it made me remember something super cringe that I'll share with you, because why not? So the Phantom Lady's in that portrait. It made me remember that because of one panel, I shipped the Phantom Lady and the Shade. So I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing that I thought about. Oh, Summer, you're like, yes to the short? Okay, then I definitely will put it together. I'll probably do two, because there's two giant mural panels. So we'll probably have to do top panel, bottom panel. But I love that that was in there. And it was a blink and you'll miss it thing that people had to ask for and be like, what was that? And he posted it. I'm like, that's great. You see like that kind of energy and the whole, like, and it's there for both films where like people are engaging and asking like, ooh, were things cut? Like, what was this? I want to see that. I want to see more of this. And like people asking for like, ooh, I want to see the scenes that weren't there. Or I want to see like these little stills. I'm like, that level of excitement, I think it's fun. I think that's just a fun energy, you know, overall for it. So yes, comments say Freedom Beast is now the first, not Legacy. I saw that because I was like, that is not OG Buona Beast. I was having a comic book moment. I was like, the ordering of the people who are here. Somebody sent me a thing in the community tab where they're like, I saw Liberty Bell, because Liberty Bell is in that mural. And they're like, do you think that her daughter was cheating with her mom's fiance while Superman was saving the world? I'm like, ha. I'm glad we can all laugh. Jeremy Nixon is saying, true, I wanted more super apes. Justice for the Red Ghost and his super apes. That would have been fun. That's just such an out there story in general. A lot of their early adventures are. And it's a really good point about the episodic feeling, because a lot of that's how their adventures feel. They're just kind of hopping from thing to thing. Namor is back. Here's Doom. Here's the Puppet Master. Like that's very much what their first few issues are like. So again, like it is very Kirby-esque in that way. Let's see. Ron Ward is saying, how many times will you see Fantastic Four? I've already seen Superman twice. I had to struggle to be able to see both once, so I'll probably not be able to see them again in the theater. I'll probably have to see them again at some later date, but I'm definitely going to. These are ones that I'm going to get physically for sure because I'm going to want to keep these. And like these are going to hang out with Stargirl and my seasons of the Batman and every Batman series and all of those kind of things. Like you're gonna sit next to Smallville seasons 1 through 10. These are things I really like, and I'm gonna rewatch. I get. I've been rewatching a decent amount of Stargirl lately. That's one of the things. Although after seeing Fantastic Four, I had to, of course, go back and read the Galactus arc. I actually moved it behind me. You can't see it. It's kind of out of the screen, but the omnibus that has that on the cover, that is the cover. If This Be Doomsday is the cover for the second, I think it's the second volume of the Omnis. So I've heard some people saying that they're going and getting into Fantastic Four, and they've recently relaunched it over at Marvel, and they also had a whole bunch of like Fantastic Four fanfare. There's a tie-in comic for this universe as well. So there are a bunch of things to check out Fantastic Four wise. I mean, I'm biased. I'm like, read all the Fantastic Four. So like, I need to stop leaning like that. Castavell is saying, I can't revisit the media of my youth. It's too much to do. Sometimes I have it on in the background while I'm editing. So I don't know if that doesn't fully count as watching it. Sometimes it's just nice, especially if it's quiet. It's never quiet right now because it's summer and all the kids are home. But when they're at school, it's nice to have some noise. You miss the noise. It's too quiet. You get used to all of the running and the sounds of, I find it to be effervescent joy of just like the play and all of the random games and that kind of stuff. So when it's not there, it's too quiet. I need to fill it with something else that's joyful. So Rico Tubbs saying fantastic snore. See, again, not for everyone. I appreciate the rhyme. I'm imagining it in because they had that theme where it was chanting the team's name. Can you imagine that? But with the theme playing? Ah, that'd be funny. Someone should do that. Oh. Yes, Fantastic Four fanfare is out now. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. It's a good time for comics coming out as well. Oh, I have it. I do have it. This is unFantastic Four related. But I got Planet Death. It's the comic that I was talking about with Robert Venditti. This shipment was late on the week that it came out, so I wasn't able to get it, and I was worried I wasn't going to be able to because I can only go once a week. And so when I went the next week, it was there, and I was able to pick it up. And I'm so glad because the thing with that idea is they're not doing digital things, so you have to go and like get it. But let me just show you. Like, look at it. Gorgeous. It's already got the strings showing because it's been picked up and flipped through. But, like, look at that. Just so good looking. I love it. So I've been having fun going through that. We will see if I get the chance to talk about it. You never know. There's so much to talk about. There are noises just happening over there. But you know what I read the other day? This has nothing to do with anything. But the Green Arrow, the most recent issue, because they're not only are they bringing back the Crimson Archer, but they're referencing like Roy's drug past, but in a way that's actually pretty relevant, and they're acknowledging Ollie's terrible reaction to it. So that's been very, very interesting. What are you all reading from Marvel right now? Are you keeping up with it? Somebody asked me earlier in the chat if I was reading One World Under Doom, and the answer is actually no, even though I love Doom so much. So I'm not sure what that says. Nothing good, I'm sure. But what about all of you? What are you keeping up with, if anything? Let's see. Connor's asking, how excited are you for Red Sonja? I know they're doing a bunch of press this weekend at San Diego Comic Con. I was actually invited to go down, but I couldn't make it. So I'm really curious to see what all is gonna come out of all of that. Okay, so I'm seeing like only reading the Ultimate Universe, just Hulk, Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men, and Uncanny. Daniel saying I can just never get enough X-Men. Oh, I like how you phrase that, Chem Dog. The Hulk always. Oh, just Black Sad. Oh, is there a new Black? Am I missing out on like? Am I missing out on things? Let's see. Would you go to SDCC? At this point, probably. I wasn't able to make it out this year, but at this point, like probably. I mean, at least to go and like hang out with some of my friends. I think that would be a good time. Let me see. Yeah, a lot of people are saying they're mostly reading Absolute and Ultimate things. Moon Knight. Oh, Moon Knight. Moon Knight was sold out at the when I went to get comics this week, and I was only there half an hour after it opened, and Moon Knight was gone. I guess all the people came and just like swooped. They were like, "We want Moon Knight." Oh, they also got the last copy of The Shade, and I had to get it somewhere else. And I was just like, oh, I had to go to 2 places. I had to leave my house twice. The horror. As someone who rarely leaves my house for things. Let's see. Did your kids enjoy Herbie? Not as much as the baby. Not as much as the baby. They liked anything that had to do with the baby and people being nice to the baby and interacting. I think it's because Franklin was only a little young. Well, he's decently younger than their youngest brother. So I think that was what they were relating to. It was just making them think of their little brother. So I can see why that was their favorite part. Yeah, everybody's reading different things. For people who have not been reading Fantastic Four, does this make you want to go and check it out? Are you now vibing with the team if you weren't before? Like, did this make you interested in them? Because I've seen some people say that. So I'm very curious. I would love to see more people come to the Fantastic Four. A lot of people, YouTubers who actually pay attention to the algorithm, which is a good thing. You should do that. Did a bunch of Fantastic Four content. I'm like, now that I'm in the mood because I've seen the movie, I'm like, I'll probably do it after and be late. But I'm like, ooh, it'd be fun to do another story arc. I love taking just a random story arc that I'm interested in and just talking about it. And there are so many for maybe the time when Doom shrinks them all down into like the doll town. See, again, I'm not picking anything that has to do with the film. I just like that arc, and I think that would be fun. And I love showing the pictures of when Doom is playing with his dolls that he has. It's like, I have these for villainous purposes. These sculptures of Reed and the Fantastic Four, they're important. Oh, they're things that people need. Twincast is saying, I love Ryan North's Fantastic Four, but all the crossovers have made me fall behind. That can happen. It definitely can. DC's entering a crossover era right now, too, and I'm curious if people are going to keep up with all the things. Oh, Daniel's saying, I really need Spider-Man, his pals, Human Torch, and Iceman in a superhero road trip. I would love to get to see like the Spider-Man and Johnny Storm friendship because they have a great friendship. I mean, we also need to get some Wyatt Wingfoot in there if we're going to do that. Let's not forget about Wyatt. People forget about Wyatt too much. More love for Wyatt Wingfoot out there. Jay Storm is saying, is the current Fantastic Four run good? Would you recommend? I would say it's decent. It's not my favorite because it leans very light on some of the angst that I feel is core to the team. But in all fairness, in Ryan North's mission statement, he said that his goal was fun. So it's very much in keeping with that mission statement. But there are moments for me when things are lighter than I feel that they should be personally. But I think it's a solid, run overall. Yeah, the Fantastic car. Some people have better cars and the like than others. Some people's merch just does not work. Spidey mobile. Oh. Yeah, not every vehicle is a winner. I know. Francisco saying Reed doesn't believe in vampire. Whenever you have I don't believe in magic vampires or things that actually exist in the universe that I've seen with my own eyes. It's like, okay, Reed. Sure, sure, Jan. It's like we got a humor read again, but yes, it's getting a bit later. I just want to come on and chat a bit, and we're moving past. So I think we've run through the course of things for just chatting about Fantastic Four First Steps because I wanted to keep it kind of contained to this so that we can do some of the other stuff later. Plus, I apparently have a short to go write about the mural. So I'm going to hop off and do some editing, work on some other things, and all of that good stuff. Thanks so much for popping by and chatting about Fantastic Four First Steps. This is always a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying these kind of slightly planned, but spur of the moment, just like chit chats after seeing a movie. We'll see if they ever come up in the future. But yes, thanks so much for coming and hanging out. And I'll see you again when I see you. All right. Bye.